Today, we're going to be talking about a feature that allows your end users to customize a visual. So, let's just say I wanted to give my end users the ability to change what's here in the y axis. This feature in Power BI would allow you to do that. So, let's jump in and let's start implementing. All right, first things first, we need to make sure the features is enabled. So, let's go into File, Options and Settings, Options, and we're going to need to enable in the current file a feature called personalization. So I believe that this feature, and it always takes me a little bit of time to find it. It's under this report settings, and then it's personalized visuals, allow readers to personalize the visuals to suit their needs. We're going to go ahead and click that checkbox and then hit OK. And then once it loads, it's turned on. And you might notice now that when I click this visual, I now have this little, this visual can be personalized button. So what does that button do? Well, it means when you go ahead and you publish this report up to the service, I can then, as a user of the report, go over and I can click personalize this visual, and then I can change it. So for example, right now it's set up as a clustered bar chart. The user could even go in and they could switch it to a table, or they could switch it to, line graph, right? Which doesn't make much sense. And they can even remove fields and actually add in new fields, right? So here I am adding quantity in, and they could go through and they could add category. Then once they have a view that they really liked, so like for example here I switched it from total sales to total quantity by category, they can then go through and they can create a personal bookmark. So they could click this little bookmark button and click add bookmark, then name this to quantity and hit save. Then whenever the report's in its default state, if they want to get back to their customization, all they need to do is click bookmarks and then go back to their custom bookmark. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, well, hey, what's the catch? This all sounds great. I'd love to give my end users the ability to self-serve a little bit better. Well, there are two kind of things you need to watch out for. The first is that once you turn on personalization, it's turned on for every single visual in the report. So that means it's turned on for slicers, it's turned on for, that random weird visual you have. And so you have to remember to go through and individually shut it off. This is a lot of kind of admin work, but it's, not that hard. So here, for example, I am back in that file. I now can turn off personalization by just searching for personalize and then switching off the personalize this visual. There, that's it. But it's just something that you need to know that once you've turned it on, you need to go through and do that for every single visual. You don't want your end users being able to modify. The other piece of this is a little bit more complex of a problem, but one that I'm going to walk you through a solution to solve. And that is when you go ahead and you click this personalization button, if you notice, you see all of the tables in this visual. And in this case, I have examples that I don't necessarily want people to be able to use. So for example, I have a ton of measures that are driving UI functionality in this report. I have a field parameter selection that I don't want people to use. So I need to be able to hide these. And you can do that by setting up something called a perspective. And this will help us solve kind of that second problem of, hey, here's all of my measures. So let's go back to Power BI and let's set up a perspective. So in order to set up a perspective, you need to have a tabular editor installed. Tabular Editor 2 is a free download and one that I'll link in the video description. But once you have it installed, restart your Power BI and then reopen it back up, and you should have this icon, Tabular Editor 2. Once it loads, you then will be able to see this folder called Perspectives. And there's other ways to create these, but this just happens to be the easiest way. And so what you can do is you can right click on perspective and you can call this a new perspective. And you could say this new perspective is bar chart customizations. And then what you can do is you can go into the tables and you can say, okay, well, I want them to be able to see category, right? So I'll go show in perspective, bar chart cuss, price, and I'll go show that in perspective, bar chart cuss. And then I want them to be able to see all of my analytic measures. So I'll show that in perspective, bar chart cuss. Then I go over here, I hit this little save icon, and I can close out. Then once I'm back in my Power BI file, I need to make sure that I'm selecting the page. So I can select the page. And then in the formatting sections of my page, I'll now have this personalized visual. So right now it's set to default fields, right? I can instead say, hey, I only want this to show bar chart plus or cust, which is the perspective I just set up. And then I can click either apply to all pages or have this, and now it will only show the fields I added to the perspective. One quick call out. If you can't find this, check two things. First, check that you're actually on the page formatting settings, not the visual formatting sections. But second, sometimes personalization mode gets switched off. So go back and double check that personalization mode is actually on. I think there might be a little bit of a Power BI bug there, but once you have this turned on, you can then go ahead and you can then go and publish this back up. Now, when I go back into that same report and then click personalize and then click the field, so like if I go to add a new field, I only see the limited number of fields that were in my perspective. So I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, or if you found it interesting, or if you're interested in business intelligence, Power BI, SQL, Fabric, please consider subscribing and liking this video. And if you're interested in me and what I do and why I maybe have the authority to speak on some of these topics, feel free to check out my LinkedIn and learn a little bit more about what I do professionally. Thanks for watching.